The early 2000s and the early 2010s, particularly in sports car racing, produced some really weird racing cars, which basically means that this weird racing car series will continue forever. You have the Delta Wing, you have the DP class in general, and at a stretch, you have the Nissan GT-R LM Nismo, which raced in 2015. It was also a time when the trendy thing before hybrids was diesel power, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. This episode is going to be a little bit different because we're not just talking about a single car, but we're going to be talking about a race engine that was used in multiple cars. Audi, with their various and very successful pioneering Le Mans prototypes, naturally became the poster child of diesel in motorsport. Diesel's potential at the time for creating racing cars that were both fast and extremely efficient was, of course, something that allured Audi to the idea in the first place. That was, of course, Audi's revolutionary idea that sort of defined them. However, when you think of Mazda's defining trait, you think of these Doritos. Now, Mazda found that when you spin one of these Doritos very quickly by blowing up dinosaur remnants, you end up with something very loud and very cool. I'm of course talking about the rotary engine. However, the problem with the rotary engine was that it liked to burn said dinosaur fuel very quickly and in a rather dirty manner. It also liked to tear itself apart, as many rotary owners will tell you. The RX-8 was Mazda's last rotary production car, which also happened to have a racing version that competed in the Grand Am Rolex sports car series. But what were they meant to replace it with? In 2011, Mazda launched Skyactiv technology with the intention to create highly fuel-efficient vehicles through a combination of engine, gearbox, chassis, and aerodynamic design. Without going into a heap of nuanced technical details, Skyactiv, in a practical sense, involves things like the engine's compression ratio and cylinder head design, as well as a collection of other design choices to increase efficiency. Mazda decided to adopt the classic win on Sunday, sell on Monday approach and promote their new technology through motorsport, particularly targeting the United States. On June the 5th, 2012, it was announced that Mazda would be entering Grand Am's GX class, formed for the 2013 season, with a car running a road-based 2.2-litre turbo diesel inline-4 Skyactiv engine. The car and engine would be developed and run by the American Speed Source race engineering outfit, which had previously been involved with Mazda's Grand Am RX-8 program. The GX class was intended for GT cars that weren't eligible for Grand Am's regular GT class, and also for cars with innovative powertrains, encouraging diesel and alternative fuels, as well as hybrid setups. On June 16th, it was announced that Mazda would be entering the 2013 24 Hours of Le Mans, as well as the American Le Mans series, with a Lola B1280 LMP2 car powered by an uprated version of the Skyactiv engine destined for Grand Am. However, in early September, it was announced Grand Am and the American Le Mans series would be merging for the start of the 2014 season, and less than a month later, Lola, the company responsible for building the shiny new chassis for Mazda's new diesel prototypes, went out of business, and it seemed that, temporarily at least, the P2 program was dead in the water. Still, the Grand Am project was still in the works. As 2012 drew to its conclusion, it was announced that the new Mazda 6 would be racing in the GX class in 2013. For the first race of the 2013 season, the Rolex 24, 6 cars lined up on the grid for the GX class. 3 of those cars were Porsche Caymans, entered by Napleton Racing, Bullet Racing, and BGB Motorsports. The other 3, developed in a matter of months, were brand new Mazda 6 Skyactiv D race cars, becoming the first ever diesel cars to race at the Daytona 24. Here are the key facts and figures. The 2.2-litre Skyactiv diesel engine had been tuned to 400 horsepower and 610 Nm of torque, with 63% production parts, mounted in the front of the old RX-8 Grand Am chassis, cosplaying as the new Mazda 6. As mentioned, 3 of them lined up on the grid.
The number 70 Mazda Speed Source car wore the factory colours and was helmed by Jonathan Bomarito, Marino Franchitti, James Hinchcliffe, and Speed Source owner Sylvain Tremblay. The 00 Visit Florida Racing Speed Source Yellow Dragon Motorsports entry was driven by Joel Miller, Tristan Nunez, Jojiro Terada, and Tristan Vautier. And finally, the Freedom Autosports Speed Source entry had Andrew Carbonell, Tom Long, Reto Dosky, and Derek Whitus behind the wheel. Unfortunately, Daytona would be a miserable affair for the Mazdas. None of them finished, all out of the race with mechanical issues. The lead Mazda, the number 70, managed only 51 laps, but all of them were out of realistic contention before the sun went down. Still, Speed Source Mazda could take a positive out of the event, as none of the failed components were production parts.
However, Daytona was a much needed wake-up call. Mazda USA and Speed Source were clearly in trouble, but thankfully they were able to receive greater factory support because of what happened at Daytona. Mazda were able to pick up podiums at the subsequent rounds at COTA and Barber, but to be fair, there were only 3 cars in the class at that point, and 2 of them were Mazdas. However, the first major success of the program would come at Road Atlanta, as the Mazda 6 would take its first victory. From there, it would win all of the remaining GX races of the season and clinch the Manufacturers' Championship. However, this one is a bit of a complicated one to analyze. On the one hand, winning a championship in any racing series is an amazing feat, and I certainly don't want to take away from Mazda's achievement. However, GX was a class that never fielded any more than 6 cars and 3 manufacturers, as Lotus decided to turn up for the final 2 races of the season with the Evora GX. In fact, it's most likely due to the fact that Mazda were usually the only ones with 2 or more cars competing in the class that they actually lost the GX Drivers' Championship, as they were competing with themselves over points. Still, the Mazda 6 project clearly had potential that was never entirely realized. Poor car counts and the ALMS and Grand Am merger to form the Tudor United Sports Car Championship, now known as the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship, saw the GX class go the way of the dodo.
However, just because the racing version of the Mazda 6 was gone, it didn't mean that its diesel-beating heart was gone. Remember the Mazda LMP2 car that never saw the light of day? Well, it was now its time to shine. Well, somewhat of. Mazda and Speed Source were able to squeeze an extra 75 horsepower out of the Skyactiv engine, and the Lola chassis was back. However, the scope of Mazda's original plans for their P2 car were never fully realized. The car would never race at Le Mans as originally planned. It wasn't particularly competitive either. The platform of the diesel wasn't powerful or reliable enough as a prototype race engine, and simply couldn't stack up to the likes of the 5.5 litre Chevy V8s in the back of the Corvette DPs, for instance. In fact, at the Rolex 24 at least, the Skyactiv diesel would never see the checkered flag across its competitive lifespan. The Mazda prototype raced as a diesel for 2 seasons, across which it experienced almost no real success, with a best finish of 7th place. And in 2016, Mazda swapped out the Skyactiv diesel for the MZ 2-litre turbocharged unit that would later be used in Mazda's RT24P DPI car. Unfortunately, this would spell the end not only for Mazda's diesel sports car racing efforts in the United States, but the end of Speed Source. For the 2017 IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship season, the Mazda factory contract was shifted to the former Audi factory effort Team Yost, resulting in Speed Source closing its doors. There have been other diesel Mazda racing cars. In 2013, Mazda Speed raced 3 Mazda 6 diesels at the 25 Hours of Thunder Hill. These, however, were not the same Mazda 6s that raced in Grand Am. In November of 2021, Mazda began racing in Japan's Super Taiku series with the Mazda 2, powered by biodiesel. However, neither of these efforts raced at the same top-flight levels of either the GX Mazda 6 or its prototype sibling.
Mazda's Skyactiv diesel racing efforts have a mixed legacy. On the negative side of things, when the competition got tough in prototype, the Skyactiv engine fell flat on its face. The diesel road-going Mazda 6 that the race engine had been designed to promote in the first place never reached the market the program had been designed to target in the United States. Also, compared to the diesel endurance racing efforts of manufacturers like Audi or Peugeot, Mazda started out right as the diesel racing revolution was coming to an end and the age of hybrid and electric power was beginning. On the flip side of things, Mazda did something bold. They took an engine that was designed to produce a measly 173 horsepower in the front of a family sedan and took it to the top levels of American sports car racing. Not to mention the fact that they won several races and a championship in doing so. It obviously wasn't the first time that we'd seen Mazda try something against the grain, as they previously had done with the rotaries. For their stabs at innovation, their determination, and their bid at following a path less followed, you've gotta love them for trying. Anyway, what did you think of today's video? Do you ever think we'll see diesels race at the top levels of sports car racing again? Comment below, I do actually read them all, and I'll try to respond to you, so you may as well say something. I've also got a few people to thank in this video. As some of you might know, I'm actually studying to be a journalist, and in one of my recent assignments, two very special people actually gave me a much needed leg up. So I'd really appreciate it if you checked out the channels of Mish DDB and also Sean Alexander's excellent cover of Running Up That Hill. Those links will be in the description below. But anyway, that's pretty much it from me. You know the drills with the socials by now. Like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.